Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Francesca Stradolini, and today I will present the smartwatch as a new paradigm shifter in monitoring in intensive care units. Before starting, I want to introduce myself and my environment. I am a PhD student at the EPFL, Lausanne, that is a polytechnical school there. And especially I'm working in integrated laboratory system with under the supervision of Giovanni De Micheli and Sandro Carrara. Moreover, I have also possibility to have communication with Polytechnic of Turin. Especially for this work, I had pleasure to work with Leonora Lavalle, that was my master's student, and we work for her thesis on the development part of this system in Android. So to let you understand what is the real work that we are doing in our laboratory, I want to introduce some basic concept. Personalized medicine. What does it mean? That if we give a certain dosage of a drug to a population, we will have some different output from that. So all people that are supposed to take the same dosage are having different reaction to that. Part of them will have the beneficial effect from the drug, but also the toxic one. Some other patient can be like giving water to them, so they will not even have the beneficial effect, and nor the toxic one, but of course doesn't react at all. And in the worst case, we will have a patient that will have only the toxic effect and not the beneficial ones. So what we want to provide to minimize the side effects is to offer a continuous monitoring of the patients for all the time of their treatments, especially in intensive care units and in critical cases. To do that, we thought to combine also the IoT definition, let's say. So by ERC is said like a dynamic global network infrastructure that is based on standard interoperable communication protocols, and where it's possible to communicate different virtual things that are able to collect and share data wirelessly, because they are all connected in this information network. How can we connect this with our effects, what we want to reach, our aim? So we can connect whatever we want, and in this way it could be possible to have information and data about patients in our case from at any time and from anywhere. So this can be beneficial, of course, for professional point of view, but also in the everyday life, so from families, sport people, and whatever. So what is the concept is that we are moving from an information age where internet was used as a tool to look for information to a connection age with, where internet is used as a vehicle to connect things that can be devices to monitor patient or some other possibility to get in touch with them. So this was a statistics of 2014 actually, and it was seen a trend of wearable in the market. But what we were thinking was what to use to integrate in our structure. And we have seen that smartwatch are, let's say, the largest used, and we want to integrate that in our system to monitor. So just to let that, now that we have all the concept, let's say, collected, we can consider the outline of the presentation. So I will introduce the concept of smart hospital. Then I will introduce you to a case of a critical monitoring case, and I will show the architecture developed in Android. Then I will go through the communication protocol that is at the base of the network of the monitoring system, and I will show some pills of code to realize it. Then I want to express one example linked with anesthesia, and I will conclude with some demonstration of the validation of this global system, and I will sum up with the conclusions. So what does it mean? A smart hospital. Smart hospital is a fully integrated system with doctors, caregivers can freely move in the hospital, in all the area of the hospital, without losing a timely and continuous monitoring of the patient under their responsibility. So that's super important, especially if the patients are in critical situation, and we need to ensure fast intervention if an emergency case happens. That's possible nowadays because 97% of the hospital are offering Wi-Fi connection. Actually, this number are from USA, but in any case, it means that something is changing nowadays. And almost 4 million medical devices are providing wireless 3D data. And 70% of them, 10% of them are offering that through Wi-Fi. So the consequence of that is that we can improve the patient care and the flow of the data, and we can enable the doctor to freely move in the hospital and perform different tasks parallel by fueling them through Wi-Fi technologies. Here we have a critical case monitoring scenario. We can see that 3 are the main actors. So we have, first of all, the application connected with the patient. Actually, this Android application is running on a tablet that we call client bedside tablet, and it's connected directly with the sensors that are measuring the main parameter to the patient. We will go deeper through this. Then we have the final user, that should be the doctor or the caregiver in charge, that is wearing the smartwatch. So the vision of the smartwatch is reversed as normal it is. So the doctor is continually kept in contact with all the patients under their responsibility, connected to the network through a server. This intermediary server is running on an application that stays in a central area of the world, for example, the nurse station. And through this, it's possible to enable the bidirectional communication with all the clients, because it enables us to overcome the intrinsic limitation of the smartwatch that see the possibility to connect, to pair to only one device. So the communication between the smartwatch and the server relies on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, depending on the distances of the 2 objects. And the other one, so from the server to the client, we use Wi-Fi one. All these applications, so the client bedside application, the final user application, and the server one, are developed fully in Android. So let's go deeper through all these applications to see their performances. So first one is the client bedside application that communicates fully with the hardware that we develop. Actually, in our laboratory, we are also developing sensor to measure critical parameter of patients in intensive care units and also in anesthesia. We will see it. And in our board, we mount the RN42 Bluetooth module, actually. And so the communication between these 2 is based on Bluetooth, but of course, we can interface whatever other technology wireless. And from the client application, we can choose which parameter we want to keep under control, because it's also possible that we don't need all the possibility of our sensor. And on the screen of the client application, we see the trend of such a parameter, of course, having connected to the board before to create the channel to exchange data. If we want the client to be connected to the up-level system for monitoring, we need to connect to the server through Wi-Fi. The other application, main application, is the one for smartwatch. So the doctor is wearing smartwatch, and 2 are the main possibilities from its point. He can query for parameter from there is a spinner view, spinner list that is possible to choose which patient through the one connected to the network. And then we can choose some buttons or whatever. Here are just a few examples, which parameter we want to know about that patient. And in almost real time, we get the answer. Second possibility is case of emergency. So we have a patient, this is client bedside application, with 2 parameters monitored, and one of the 2 is overlapping the threshold. So almost in real time, we get an alert on the smartwatch of the doctor that is saying, this patient has this problem with such parameter, please go because it's an emergency case. And of course, we also try to encode together the vibration, so we try to exploit all the functionality of the smartwatch to alert as much as we could. Finally, there is the intermediary server. It actually is just a bridge for us. It's used to enable the bidirectional communication, as I said, because the smartwatch could be interfaced with only one device, paired with one. So it handles actually the IP of the client connected to the network. And through this, it's possible to update the spinner list on the smartwatch of the doctor. So let's see what is in the background of all this network. We have these 3 main actors here, and 2 main processes that we have to keep in mind. First one is the query for parameter. So we have from the smartwatch, we send a query for a specific parameter of one patient connected to the network. The server, as soon as it receives the query, it redirects it to the right patient, asking for the parameter. And the client patient sends back the value. Actually, is an average of a sample of a little period that we take track. Then it's sent back to the server, and the server pushes it back to the doctor. Second case is the alert. So we have the client patient that is having problem with one parameter. It sends it to the server, and from the server, it is pushed to the smartwatch. Of course, we also keep in mind the case of internet availability. So what we did was to continuously send the alert, since it's very important to not miss it. And the smartwatch sent back an answer saying that he correctly received the alert. And that makes us sure that the alert is received by the doctor. To go even deeper in this protocol, I want to show some pieces of the code that are the base of this. So first of all, the part of the connection between the server and the client. We actually combine two main functions, get network interfaces and get inet addresses. And in this case, we can obtain all the IP that are connected to the node of the networks. And then it's important to create a server, a thread. So we create a thread, we start a thread, and inside the thread we see actually what is the client request, and depending on that, after having extract the IP and the message, we can handle the different requests from him. So the connection, disconnection, the query, and the alert. On the case instead, on the part instead between the server and the smartwatch, what was important is to register in the XML manifest of the server a wearable listen service, and to get access to the Google API to connect, to have bidirectional communication, to interact with the smartwatch itself. And in case of alert, what we can see is that we needed to see if this is the case actually of an alert, and if we receive an emergency case from the client, we want to create a notification to send to the smartwatch, and we have included an icon to alert the doctor, the title, and of course the parameter that are connected with the alert, so the patient in case and the parameter itself. And then we decided to set a vibration. And then, of course, we create it and we send. And this is the final results for our case. And then, instead for the query of parameter, we have the case of doctor choosing one parameter, and we create, using wearable API, we send a message with the ID of the client that we want to ask for and for the parameter we want. So now we can go back to the big picture of the protocol. And what I want to show is that it's possible to interface this on-the-top level of monitoring to whatever system, biosensor in our case, because this is the case for our laboratory, that is sending wirelessly data, so it's sharing data. And this biosensor can measure whatever endogenous, exogenous compounds, so the application can be really flexible. Of course, the only thing that we need is to create a dedicated client application in order to interface with the correct sensor. And then it can be directly connected with no work with the server and the smartwatch. So this proves the system flexibility. And what I want to show you now is to make you understand better why we need such a continuous monitoring system, an example. And for that, I want to show Anesthesia Cocktail. Maybe nobody knows, but anesthesia is composed of a cocktail of drugs that are anesthetics, because you need the patient sleep for all the time of the surgery and also to forget about surgery after. Then we need an analgesic, because of course to not feel pain, and a muscle relaxant to keep the patient immobilized for all the surgery. In this case, you can think these three compounds are super difficult to handle and to dose, to rightly dose. And in case of underdosage, it's like an horror film, so you will have a patient feeling pain, but unable to express it, so to not give an alarm to the doctor. In case of overdosage, we will have nausea, brain damages, even after the operation, so you will not able to connect it with the operation itself. And in the worst case, the death of the patient. So, of course, in this case, it's needed to provide a continuous monitoring system to find the right balance of all these three compounds. Nowadays, in fact, the setup for anesthesia consists of an anesthetized patient, of course, the target control infusion pump that infuses the drug to the patient, and the anesthesiologist. So in the target control infusion pump, we have some mathematical model that are reproducing the metabolism of the patient for the drug that we are infusing, and they predict which level of sedation, so which is the next dosage that we have to provide to the patient. And the anesthesiologist keep the depth of anesthesia of the patient under control through the bispectral index. That is an index evaluated by encephalogram waves. Of course, this setup has some limitation because the bispectral index is evaluated in an indirect way, so it may be affected by artifacts. And in the other case, the target control infusion pump relies on mathematical model. What does it mean? That if we take the model for a male of 36 years of age and a body weight of 70 kilo and a height of 170 centimeter, this is what the pump is expecting. So it's giving a bolus infusion to make the patient sleep. So it's the first dosage higher than the others. And then the infuse is kept, let's say, constant. So it's anesthesia maintenance. But if we keep 5 patients with the same characteristics, these are their really model of their metabolism, because every person is different. So the metabolism, it's not possible to be reproduced by mathematical model, because we are a complex engine. And what we need is really to keep under control the patient and the real value inside it. So in our laboratory and for my project, I'm working also on the sensor that inside the body of the patient, so inside the blood, is measuring the concentration of the drugs continuously and giving this value, that is a real value of the patient anesthetized, to the pump. We can correct the mathematical model inside it. What is more important is that the anesthesiologists normally follow different surgeries together. So we have different patients, and the doctor cannot stay continuously linked with all of them, even if the clearance, so the metabolism of each patient is super fast for that drugs. So that's why we want to interface this model with the on-the-top level of monitoring network. To do that, just to let you understand how we realize such system, we have 3 main parts. We are developing the sensing platform, the electronics that drives the measurements, and the data visualization and sharing. What does it mean? This is the part that we have talking about now. It's the client application that then we will interface with the server, and from the server to the smartwatch. Instead, from the sensing platform, we have microfluidic systems that get the blood of the patient and bring it to sensing probe that in fact are 3, because 3 are the main compounds of the anesthesia. And in this way, we get physically the value, but this is possible thanks to the electronics we also develop. And here, let's say I want just to show that 3 are the main channels to do these 3 measurements in independent way and in parallel, so that all the 3 compounds are continuously kept under control together. So to recap, the system let's say, it can be applied normally in critical care cases. So we have different patients that needs to have continuous monitoring of their vital parameter, so that are on the top here. In this case, it's intensive care units, but as I show you, also anesthesia practices can need this. So we have the client application that interfaces with the server application that communicates with the smartwatch to enable the bidirectional communication through smartwatch and the client. Of course, we also did validation for the test for the on-the-top network. And to do that, we develop everything in Android Studio, of course. And we use 2 clients bedside with Jelly Bean and KitKat version. Then we use an intermediary server that has Lollipop version of Android, just to see every kind of possibility, and smartwatch that is Sony one. And for the client bedside, we tested Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi connection, and the velocity, how answers are received by the smartwatch in this case. The intermediary server, we see the handling of different clients, and also the connection and disconnection of them, and the upload of the spinner list on the smartwatch. And finally, for the smartwatch, we tested the latency for the query, latencies for the alerting, and the case of internet unavailability. Here I have 3 videos for demonstration. First one is for client connection. Second one is for the query of parameter from the smartwatch. And finally, we have the alert notification, so the 3 main parts of the system. So we have, of course, it's impossible to do that in the hospital right now because you need a lot of permissions. So in any case, we are in the hospital. There is Mario Rossi that is in critical case, and the doctor. The doctor opened the application on the smartwatch, and we can see that the spinner list is initially empty. Then the doctor connected the patient to the server. The server connects the IP and register it, and on the spinner list now is updated with Mario Rossi. So now the doctor is in contact with Mario Rossi. Second case, it's the query for parameter, and it's not starting. No. Okay. In this case, the doctor is in another room respect to where Mario Rossi is, and is asking for the glucose measurement and for the temperature. We can see that the latencies are almost real time. And finally, the case of an alert. So this is a bedside application near to the patient. We simulate some data, and these data are getting up through the blue line that is the threshold considered for that parameter, and an alert was received on the screen of the smartwatch of the doctor. So to conclude, we have seen a new IoT system for critical monitoring case in hospital environments. And we have seen how wearable devices, in this case smartwatch, can enable for query and to receive alert from the doctor. We have tested short latencies and to ensure rapid medical intervention, so it's very basic this. And in this way, what we are doing is to enable doctors and caregivers to perform different tasks in parallel and to move freely in all the area of the hospital without losing the control of the patient under their responsibility. So I want everyone to thank you very much for your attention, and if you have questions, I will be glad to answer for that.